Greetings, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. I'm Cipher, and this is the Devil's Advocate Debate Club. It's good to finally be home. My long journey with the carnival is at an end. I'll be doing a video or two on it at some point, I'm sure, but right now it's just good to be back. Today's video will be about the environmentalist Greta Thunberg, I believe her name is pronounced. And I'm going to be telling several stories here about several fictional versions of her, so bear with me. The first story that I heard about Greta Thunberg was that she was an environmentalism hero. That she was going to save the planet with her simple message to us overthinking adults. That message being, stop all carbon emissions now. And to support this message, she was taking a sailboat across the ocean. Truly a hero for the environmentalist movement. Someone to inspire the youth and to show us all that if a 16-year-old autistic girl can understand, why can't we? I watched her first addresses to the public and found her to be quite empathetic. And she definitely seemed to believe everything that she was saying to an extreme degree, to maybe a degree that only autistic people can. And I say that without meaning it as an insult. I've known and cared for and even loved many autistic people. But they definitely at times feel emotions more strongly than most other people. So I think it's definitely safe to say that Greta's autism has an impact on how strongly she feels about the environmentalist movement. The next story that I heard was about Greta Thunberg, the eco-fascist, or even in some cases on the extreme ends of social media, environmental terrorist, who was pushing her extremist agenda that the entire world was going to end in any moment now if we didn't end all carbon emissions now. And as if she was a doomsayer on the side of a street with a cardboard box, the end is nigh. And who was just trying to push socialism on the masses, being led on by her grandfather and another member of her family who were actors, who had taught her how to portray things properly. And these people would call into question the ones making these claims about her, would call into question how autistic this girl really even was. How much of it is just acting, given her background and, apparent potential schooling. This is getting tiring, but, well, I wanted to wait until most of the hubbub had died down, and there's been so many stories about this little girl. The next is about Greta Thunberg. Thunberg, like iceberg in this case, who was really just hurting the environment. She was one of those, privileged, not so woke neoliberals who were damaging the environment in their attempts to help it, because the yacht that she was taking across the ocean was bad for the environment in at least 3 different ways. I mean, let's look at this. The amount of carbon needed and just other gases pushed into the atmosphere to produce the fiberglass and other materials needed for the giant luxury vessel that she took across the ocean are massive, enough that it outstrips probably the average person's carbon footprint just to build the yacht. Secondarily, she was doing it as, an attempt to save fuel instead of flying. But as long as you don't take, a private jet, flying isn't necessarily that bad for the environment. I mean, okay, so the jet fuel does put gases into the air. However, that plane's going to be up there with or without you for the most part. If you book a ticket on a 2/3 full airliner that never fills, well, there are going to be empty seats, which are, I suppose, somewhat wasteful. If you're in one of those empty seats instead of, say, in a car, or instead of, say, buying your own private luxury vessel, which requires carbon emissions to produce, you can actually be saving the environment. Because, if the plane is full, then yeah, they might look into start sending another on that route or one thing or another, which could hurt the environment. But if you're just jumping on a flight that's going with or without you, well, it's similar to the argument of the rest of the public transit system. It saves gas and saves the environment to take the bus, theoretically. Why would planes really be that different? The third reason why Greta Thunberg's trip was bad for the environment is that she's having a crew fly to wherever it was, New York, I believe, to pick up the yacht, which means that people are still taking the flight that she would have taken. So, on top of whatever small damage that flight may do, or, if it was a private jet, moderate damage, I suppose, to the environment for one's comparative carbon footprint, on top of the fact that she had this luxury yacht built for this occasion, I believe, or at the very least purchased one, which puts a fair footprint into the air itself just for its creation, the flight still happened. So absolutely no saving of the environment happened. It was just one huge, from what I understand, mostly failed PR stunt. Now I'm going to tell you a sad story. A story that's probably true. See, I've looked into this more, and... bug! Get off me. Shoot. Sorry. I think that was the kind of fly that bites. I didn't want it on my hand. I apologize. Anyway, this is the story of Greta Thunberg. At least I think that's how you pronounce her name. I apologize if I've gotten it wrong here. Greta Thunberg is an autistic, which does, by the way, make her, technically speaking, mentally ill girl from Switzerland who has been convinced by climate extremists that the world is going to end potentially within 10 years. Now, climate activists, when they're being serious and aren't trying to be hyperbolic or extreme, will tell you that in 10 years, permanent damage may have been done to the environment, which could, in another 100 or so years, lead to something that we should be worried about. They don't tell you, though, that the world's going to end in 10 years. However, in some of their more hyperbolic moments that the media likes to capitalize on, well, they say things that come close, or that sound a lot like saying that the world is going to end in 10 years. Just go through some quick clips of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez talking about the Green New Deal if you don't believe me. And autistic people, I mean, autism is broad spectrum. It can mean a lot of different things, but autistic people very frequently can become fixated on a topic and, well, can become easily extremist about it, especially if, rather than helping moderate them and helping even their emotions out for their own emotional safety, the people around them push these emotions into being more extreme. See, Greta Thunberg is an amazing political tool or weapon. There are certain people, and I'm not talking about a certain political party or faction, there are just certain people within politics who like using children to forward their point. We've seen it before, and I'm sure we'll see it again, but Greta is young, but not so young that you can just write off her opinions based on her age. She's 16, so she's had some worldly experience. She's fairly, I don't want to say average or plain looking, because there's definitely something, I guess, interesting or drawing about her, but she doesn't have the overly pretty, overly hyped media face that you would come to expect from someone who'd been paid for their role. She has autism, which means that if you write her off, you can be called out for attacking the autistic girl, and she has potentially some background in acting, or at least people around her who can help coach her, which means that people who know about her particular type of autism are there to help coach her through a script. This makes her sound a lot more bold and confident in public than she is in real life. When you see her answering off-script questions, which I've looked into now, you see the real Greta Thunberg. And, well, while after watching one of her recent speeches, I did at first call into question how autistic this girl was, she's just been scripted well. She is, in fact, in my opinion, a fairly heavily autistic girl who's convinced that she will die because of the environment and because of climate change if, something else doesn't get her first. But she believes that she will not live her full life because of the damage we've done to the environment. Something which, to my knowledge, no scientist or political faction is currently espousing. And the people around her are letting her believe this, are in fact supporting this belief with their rhetoric and their interactions with her, keeping this autistic girl at a peak point of fear so that they can use the empathy driven behind her autism as a political weapon. I'm not saying that we shouldn't be worried about the environment. Now, Greta herself, in one of her speeches, brings up the CO2 sucking machines, which produce several different things, that are one of the potential solutions. I do think the hyperbolic nature with which both parties either push or write off environmentalism is dangerous, and that it's a serious conversation that needs to be had. However, I don't know that there's a cause in the world that I believe in enough to try to capitalize on the fear of an autistic child. That, to me, seems evil. And I think that the people who are doing it may simply be misguided, may believe these things themselves. But whatever the case may be, I think they need to stop. Because at this point, a lot's gone on recently on both sides, but it's been very, very rare for something in politics to make me this angry. And the last time it was when a group came after a child for no reason, and that child was on the right, this one's on the left, but damaging children, be it their reputations or their emotional state or just their lives for your political gains, is wrong. Children should be, at worst, educated for their mistakes. The actions that are being taken here are evil. And it's not a word I use frequently. I can do a video on why. Anyway, it's good to be back home. I'll do a video on the hell that was my tour and that is the state of Washington at some point. But until then, please like and subscribe, and of course, let me know what you think about the situation with Greta in the comments down below. And, well, comment to let me know you're all still alive. Anyway, as always, I'm your host, Cipher. Thanks for watching the Devil's Advocate Debate Club.